We're in Manhattan, it's past midnight. A customer just paid $1,000 for a gold-covered steak in the kitchen. 4 servers realize they're being robbed of thousands of dollars, and the next day, they're fired. It's not for professional misconduct or an unhappy customer, but for asking a forbidden question: where is our money? This restaurant isn't just any place. It's Nusret, the temple of steak and show, where celebrities come to be seen. Here, a dinner can cost as much as a month's rent, and where a simple gesture with salt turned an unknown butcher into a global phenomenon. You all know his name, Salt Bae. The viral videos, the sunglasses, the signature salt sprinkling move, that smile. What we know less about, however, is what happens when the cameras are off. Because behind the flames, the edible gold, and the millions of views, there's another story, a much darker one, hiding. Hi, Entrepreneur Mindset team. I hope you're doing well. Today, we're going to analyze how an apprentice butcher with no diploma built a global empire, and why that same empire collapsed in just a few moments. And believe me, what you're about to see isn't just a story about a restaurant. It's a brutal lesson about power, image, and what happens when it turns against you. We're at the beginning of the 90s, and somewhere in a butcher shop in Istanbul, a 13-year-old teenager, Nusret Gökçe, left school very early, not by choice but out of necessity. His father is a miner, and his family lives modestly in an industrial city near Istanbul. So he starts working in a butcher shop as an apprentice. He works 7 days a week, 18 hours a day, earns a meager salary, but he never complains. For 14 years, he learns every cut, every muscle, and all possible techniques. And at 25, he becomes the head butcher of the chain where he works. But Nusret wants more. He's hungry for success. So in 2007, he gathers all his savings. He doesn't speak a word of English, has no contacts or a precise plan, and yet he heads to Argentina. Why that country? Because over there, meat is sacred. It's the country of parillas, of asados, where meat isn't just a dish, but a true religion. He works for free in ranches and family butcher shops. He observes, takes notes, learns about meat aging, charcoal grilling, and all the rituals around preparation. Then he leaves for the United States. There he discovers something else: the bling, the show, the presentation, the American-style spectacle. How do you turn a meal into an event? At 27, he returns to Istanbul with a clear vision. He doesn't just want to work with meat, but to create something completely different. He then opens his first restaurant, Nusret. The concept is simple but very effective. Quality meat, impeccable service, and above all, a real show. Each service becomes a show, and very quickly it catches on. Lines start to form, customers come back, and Nusret gradually becomes a must-visit spot in Istanbul. In 2012, an investor sees the potential. Dogs Holding, one of the largest Turkish conglomerates, takes a 49% stake in Nusret's restaurant. The expansion then begins in the Middle East: Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Doha. But something is still missing. And in January 2017, a simple 36-second video posted on Instagram will change everything. You see Nusret slicing a steak with precision, and at the end of the gesture, the salt slides down his forearm and cascades onto the meat. Within 48 hours, the video racks up millions of views. The hashtag #SaltBae floods Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Bruno Mars reposts it. Leonardo DiCaprio shares it. Athletes imitate the gesture to celebrate their goals. Nusret Gökçe becomes Salt Bae, and he immediately understands what just happened. He's no longer selling meat, he's selling an experience. And now what he was missing happens: global expansion. At every opening, it's the same pattern: lines of people, celebrities. Astronomical, a steak covered in gold for $1,000. The London restaurant generates £7 million in 4 months, and the one in Dubai has over 1,000 customers on some nights. In 2019, Salt Bae already owns 22 restaurants around the world, and his fortune is estimated at $80 million. In just a few years, he went from apprentice butcher to businessman at the head of a global empire. But above all, he understood something before anyone else. In the age of Instagram, people no longer pay just to eat. They pay to live the experience, and above all, to show it off. And here he will build an image, a marketing genius, much more than just a chef. But here's the problem with empires built on image. When it cracks, everything collapses. The Nusret restaurant is full, His suit impeccable, discreet celebrity, phone already raised before the first bite. Here, people don't come to eat, they come to be seen. It costs a lot. Dinner for two often exceeds $1,500. And for the ultimate experience, there's this dish that went viral, a steak covered in gold, priced up to $1,000. Not for its meat, but for what it represents. Luxury, status. The story you can post. In the dining room, the servers perform the choreography. They know when to enter, when the flames rise, when the customers applaud. Every night, the tips add up. And on the very day their weekly pay arrives, 4 servers start doing the math. A $1,000 steak, about a 15% tip. That's $150 per table multiplied by a full dining room. And the estimated amounts don't match at all with what they're actually getting. So, they asked their management a simple question. How much in tips was collected this week? Silence. They asked for details, the breakdown, the numbers, and they're shown a document with just one word at the top. Confidential. The problem is that in the United States, employees normally have the right to access information about the tips they receive. And from that moment on, they decide to dig deeper. They check the numbers, cross-reference the information, redo the calculations over and over, and, according to them, some amounts don't add up. The next day, everything speeds up. They're called in, and within a few minutes, it's over. You're fired. The employees will later claim that this firing is related to their questions about the tips. Management, on the other hand, will mention other reasons. But one thing is certain. From that moment on, the matter will no longer be settled internally. The 4 men don't stop there. They file a complaint. Meanwhile, online, nothing changes. Salt Bae keeps posting the gesture, the glasses, the smile, and above all, the millions of views. But off camera, another process is set in motion. Lawyers, files, negotiations. And as the court date approaches, the pressure rises. Finally, on the eve of the trial, an agreement is signed. The amount, $230,000, a sum paid to the 4 former employees to settle the case amicably. Without a public trial, and above all, without any official acknowledgement of wrongdoing, the case disappears from the courts, but not from people's memories. And that's just the beginning, because in 2022, history repeats itself. This time, it's at the Nusret restaurant in Miami Beach. 24 workers file a complaint, same accusation. The automatic 18% service charge added to each bill is not properly redistributed. The lawsuit is ultimately dismissed because, according to the court, the evidence is not sufficient to proceed further. But despite the decision, the testimonies keep coming. A former bartender from the Mykonos restaurant compares Salt Bae to a dictator. Another employee says, "Working at Nusret is like participating in the Hunger Games. You never know if you'll be fired before the end of the shift." And as you have understood, Nusret is not just a restaurant, it's a machine for extracting money from customers, but also extracting money from those who keep the machine running. It's December 18, 2022 in Qatar for the World Cup final. Argentina has just won, Messi is in tears, the players are passing the trophy around. A historic moment finally for Argentina. Not for me, but that's another story. And suddenly, who appears? Salt Bae, right in the middle of the field. He slips between the players, gets around security, approaches Messi and grabs his arm. He insists, pulls slightly to get his attention, and finally Messi stops. He poses for the photo, but on his face, you can see he's wondering what this man is doing there. Then Salt Bae grabs the trophy, kisses it, and lifts it up. The problem is that only the winners and Fédération Internationale de Football Association officials are allowed to touch this trophy. The video went around the world in just a few hours. The reactions are immediate, people are calling it an awkward moment, and some go even further and call it a pathetic scene. Then, in January 2023, the punishment comes down. Salt Bae is officially banned from the final of the Cup that takes place in the United States. From Steak King to persona non grata, then the numbers arrive. That same year, the London restaurant made 11.6 million euros in revenue, but recorded 6.38 million euros in losses. In the United States, it's the same. The drop is brutal. In 2019, he owned 7 restaurants, and by 2025, only 2 are left. The closures keep coming. New York, Boston, Dallas, Las Vegas, Beverly Hills, iconic cities, all closed now to limit the damage. They try an unthinkable shift just a few months earlier. A menu at £39, a stark contrast to the time when nothing, absolutely nothing, costs less than 3 digits in these restaurants. But the numbers tell the story behind this change. These cash reserves will collapse in 1 year from 9.40 million to 2.67, which represents a 70% drop in just 12 months. The image of Salt Bae is shattered, and the empire built on it is collapsing. Because people came to be seen for the photo, Instagram, the status, but the day being seen with him becomes embarrassing. Everything changes. Why pay $1,000 if there's no prestige behind it? Because deep down, the meat was never the real selling point. And without prestige, the criticism takes over. Frozen fries, Heinz ketchup, wine sometimes considered unworthy of the listed prices. The show on its own is no longer enough. Today, Salt Bae still has 53 million followers, but restaurants are closing and losses are increasing. Because he forgot a simple rule. You can build a business on illusion, but you can't maintain it forever. Sooner or later, people see what's actually on the plate, and some have understood this by offering the maximum amount of food for the minimum price. That's how French tacos managed to dethrone McDonald's in the hearts of young people, even though they're now facing new challenges and scandals, as you can see in the video that's showing.